Okay, next up is Path to Villainy, an NPC Kobold's Tale, written by S.L. Rowland. This is 175 pages, a little on the shorter end for LitterBG. It's $2.99, so it's reasonably priced. It is available on Kindle Limited. Here's the author's description. Villains aren't born, they're made. Witt was an ordinary NPC, a non-player character in a video game. As a kobold skald, he sang songs to empower heroes before they entered the local dungeons. Every day was a fresh start. Every day, Witt woke with no memory of his previous encounters with all those so-called heroes, and every day he forgot the countless beatings and deaths he took at the hands of the murder hobos he valiantly buffed. But when all those memories suddenly come flooding back, he only wants one thing. And I don't think I'm not sure if that's an incomplete sentence there or I forgot to copy it. So sorry, S.L. Rowland. S.L. Rowland is also the author of the Sentence Troll series, so I'm a fan of that one. I'll be honest, the cover art on this novel does not do the story justice. You just see a kobold with like a lute, and that's it. And this story is actually much cooler than the cover art. Not a bad cover art. It just doesn't do it justice of what's happening in this story. It doesn't really convey like the cool villain aspect of this story. So if you thought of skipping because the cover didn't appeal to you, look past it. Just go give it a read. It's a short enough story that you won't have a lot of time to. It's a real tight knit story, so it kind of gets to the point real quick. The main character is an NPC Kobold that busts adventures for you in a dungeon, and again, just like the novel description said, he's murdered and he's abused by players on a daily basis. But every day, whether he's killed or just goes to bed, he forgets about all those events. His memory is literally erased or suppressed. And one day something happens that forces him to remember. He suddenly gets flooded with all those memories of that abuse. And that turns him into a villain, or at least somebody who wants revenge. And eventually he's offered like this quest line to become an actual villain in this MMO game world. And that's essentially the premise of the story, like how this below level skald kobolds, and kobolds are considered, trash monsters, it goes on a path of revenge, and he starts incorporating the other kobolds in this kobold town. And it's a really enjoyable story. And that's kind of what it is. I really did like the idea of the NPC character becoming a self-aware and becoming a villain. And it's fun to see how that character use these new game mechanics and his barbarian kind of class, the skald, to take his revenge and kill a bunch of players, and the benefits to himself, and also how there's a little bit of town building with the other kobolds and a bunch of like cool little action adventure stuff. But again, the story is like pretty tight as far as like its storytelling pacing, which I personally thought it could have been stretched out a little bit more to like maybe even 250 pages, with just a little more world building fleshing out, or like secondary or tertiary character development interactions. But as even at 175, it's a very entertaining story. It just gets to the events quickly. And for some people that might be great. Some people might think it's a little short. In the literature genre in general, 170 pages is considered something on the short story side, which may be good for some people, may not be. But for me, I enjoy it still. On the RPG side of things, the story is good. There's plenty of RPG stuff once you get past the beginning section of the story. The beginning section is the main character is unaware that he's an NPC and he's just going about his business. So you don't see a lot of RPG stuff until about past the 15% mark, when the main character gets access to character sheets, stat sheets, kill stuff, and he gets the ability to gain experience points from hunting monsters or players, and you get a bunch of progression stuff there. And also, I really enjoyed the villain mechanic that was developed with the story. I think that's a nice way to actually incorporate being a villain in the story and giving an RPG mechanics without making it too overpowered, and giving the main character an RPG reason to kill players as an NPC, but also giving him like a very reasonable detriment to being killed by players himself. So not a very nice balance to that particular system. Overall, I enjoyed the heck out of it. It's a shorter story again for a lot of readers, but still I think it's well worth your time to read. Give it a score of 7.5 out of 10. That's Path to Villainy, an NPC Kobold's Tale, with a score of about 7.5 out of 10.